Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for a cook and chat with our world-renowned chef Mark Olive and the use of native ingredients within the cooking today. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us for NAIDOC Week to not only celebrate the wonderful produce in Australia and being able to share and connect over food and connect over culture, but then also to take the time during NAIDOC Week to be able to reflect on our own histories, reflect on our own cultures, and to be able to work together to forge a more reconciled nation and connection to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander roots in our nation, but then also the identity, our shared identity moving forward. So today we have a bit of a special and a really exciting opportunity to be able to not only to speak to Mark Olive and connect to him. He's in Sydney at the moment, but to also share a dish and hear from Mark about the movement around native foods and native ingredients, and then also to cook a dish that is featured in a wonderful cookbook, which I'll talk to you about in a second. So today and this week actually is NAIDOC Week, so National NAIDOC Week, and NAIDOC Week is a wonderful time to celebrate on the wonderful contributions of many years that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders have made to society, but as custodians of lands that we've walked and cared for thousands and thousands of years. And it's actually with that acknowledgement of the ongoing custodianship, I just want to acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, elders past and present from the lands that we are reaching to back into Australia, but then also on my own sides of my family, from Wemba, Bundjalung, Oregano and Gunditjmara, which is in the west of Victoria, right along the border of South Australia. So NAIDOC Week this year has a wonderful theme in regards to heal country, and when we think about heal country, it can take so many connotations in regards to preserving and caring for the land that we walk and live and play on every single day, but then also this notion of actually healing our country as well. And so in regards to the relationship between Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders and non-Indigenous people, and I guess the connections that we want to make, the histories that we share, the truths that we tell, and then also the movements moving forward. So NAIDOC Week in 2021 really invites us to take the time to acknowledge the cultural identity across our nation as part of our national heritage, and the equal respect for all people from all different nations across Australia. This theme really seeks us to reflect and take a substantial reflection on the institutions that we operate in, the work that we do, and how do we create that space for true healing to take place, the space for true reconciliation to take place. And so we really want to thank you all for taking the time this week during NAIDOC Week to be able to join us, to be able to work with Mark Olive and to be able to connect and cook over a dish that is featured in this really wonderful cookbook called Australia, the Cookbook. So this is a wonderful cookbook that has over 350 recipes that showcase the really rich diversity of across our landscapes and our people. And actually the dish that we're cooking today is actually one that was handpicked by Mark Olive and featured within this wonderful cookbook. So the recipes within this cookbook really feature a whole range from everything from fairy bread through to Greek influenced spanakopita to Thai kangaroo salad, and a whole range of everything in between. But today's focus is on Australian native ingredients and how we can use them in everyday cooking. And to take us on that journey and into that conversation, I'm really pleased and very honoured to invite and to welcome Mark Olive, known as Mark the Black Olive. And many of you are very familiar with Mark. He is a very well-renowned chef, and you may remember that he's featured his own masterclass on MasterChef Australia. He's over 25 years of being a chef for over 25 years. He's well known for his charismatic style and creative productions and approach to food and cuisine. But then also is really leading the movement around cuisine using a lot more of native Australian ingredients and really using that as a platform to have a greater conversation around culture and around connection. Mark is actually a Bundjalung man, and his family originate from Northern Rivers in New South Wales. And he was born in Wollongong, and from very early on, he was very interested in cooking, which was influenced by his mums and also his aunts as they prepared meals. He was trained under a European chef and has worked in a number of kitchens and also globally over the last few years. Featured in one of Oprah's shows called Oprah's Victorian Itinerary when she travelled Australia with the Ultimate Australian Experience, and was lucky to be able to treat some of her guests with Indigenous foods, art, and also storytelling through one of his very famous cooking demonstrations. So it's a great honour to invite Mark and to be joined by Mark as we talk through. We talk more about culture, talk more about cooking, and also a bit more about culture. But I would also like to also acknowledge Melissa Hutchings, who is the Deputy Consul-General at the Australian Consulate-General in Houston. So how are you feeling today?
Oh, a little bit nervous because I've watched MasterChef and all of these shows, and I watched Mark every weeknight on the Chef's Line. So I've got to make sure I get this right, or it could be very embarrassing. So, but I'm looking forward to it.
That's good. And Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. And how are you? It's actually morning in Australia.
Well, you can probably see it's like 10 o'clock, but it's early morning. I've just had an egg and bacon roll. I'm raring to go. And I've got a lot of stuff I want to talk about culture, about food, but also about what we're going to cook. Excellent. How's your day started?
And Mark, so tell us a bit about the dish that you've picked out for us today, and what inspired you to choose this particular dish.
Well, Benson, and hello, Melissa. How are you?
Hi.
Look, it's always great to talk about Indigenous food, but also to showcase it as well. And I find it really important, especially in our own backyard in our country, that we should be utilising a lot more of our Indigenous ingredients. And it's great that I can do sessions like this to showcase what we have, but not only what we have to share. And I see this as our national cuisine. It's not a prawn on a barbie or a can of Foster's, it's actually this stuff. So what we're going to do today is a chicken dish, and I like to use the thighs of the chicken, especially in this dish, because there is that little bit of fat in there, but the meat is a little bit more tender and you get a little bit more softness and moisture out of it. What we're going to be cooking today with it is the native thyme. We're going to have some oregano, which we have native oregano here, but also saltbush. Saltbush and the oregano and the thymes are very, very unique. They are very different, but as you can probably see here, this is the fresh shrub. And when you get the thyme, when you see thyme, it's like little spindles. This is like a rounded leaf, very, very aromatic, very different. The good thing with native thyme, when you dry native thyme out, it has 5 distinct different flavours or scents that come through. You grab a little bit of this, rub it in your palm, you have a smell. You can smell the native thyme, but you'll also smell oregano coming out. You smell a hint of rosemary that really pops through there. But because it is an Australian shrub, you have a eucalypt flavour that comes through. Very unique, very different. But then the big pop at the end of it all, you get this whiff of lavender. So there's 5 different scents on this amazing herb. Look, if you can't get your hands on it, normal time is okay. Here we have the oregano. Now, native to this part of the country. We are growing this stuff on the Eora country now. We are in Sydney, and we're in lockdown, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's okay because it's great we can share stuff like this. The oregano, really unique, very, very different. Same sort of leaf as, you know, you guys have over there, but it has a really distinct earthy top of oregano that comes out. Going to make this dish proper as well. We've also got saltbush. Now the saltbush, hundreds of, they say there's hundreds of different species around. There's a lot of different varieties, which is our wattle salt. But the saltbush, pretty amazing stuff. This is called grey saltbush. This grows along the ocean. So you'll find this along the beaches of New South Wales. Grows really, really along there, pointy leaf. But we also have another saltbush, which is called Old Man saltbush. Old Man saltbush you find out in the desert areas, around the rim of the desert. That's where that grows. Leafy leaf. Grows about the size of my thumb. Really, really unique, very salty. Like the grey saltbush. Taste that, you burst of salt that comes through all around pressure. Really, really special. Very salty, really, really unique. We'll be using that as well. Now, I've also got, we have bush tomatoes. We're going off the track a bit, but I just wanted to showcase a couple of things here that we have. This is bush tomato. I have ground down the bush tomato here. This is what it looks like in its form where it is dried out. You have this almost like a raisin. Down in South Australia, they call this a desert raisin. Along the east coast of Australia, we call it the bush tomato. And up north, over to the west coast, they call it kutara. The kutara coming from the desert area, you find a lot of it. Very, very unique. This is a great base for when you're making stews, casseroles. This is almost, I call this the vegetarian stock of our range. Really unique. Again, you put that on your tongue. Roll that on the top of your palate. You have this sourness. Let that develop. It gets sweet and it gets sweeter until you have this tomato tone with this great, great fruit. It's a bush tomato, extremely high in antioxidants, but it's a great form of vitamin C as well. Here we've got some dried saltbush. We'll be using some of that as well to go with that. We've also got some native pepper. Native pepper originated from Tasmania. So down along Hobart with the Palawa people down there, it's an amazing pepper. It's just the leaf that's been ground up. It has this warm ting to it. Once you put it on your palate, the best way to introduce this to people is on, I say, macadamia nuts. Roast them up in the oven, let the oils come out. They'll release. You dust them down with this lovely pepper. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous pepper, and the scent. You can smell the warmth coming on that. Roast the macadamia nuts in the oven, leave them there for about 2 minutes. Don't let them get too dark. Let the heat go through them. The oil will come out. Dust these down. Great introduction to mountain pepper for children, but also to your friends and family. It's another unique thing there. So we'll be using these ingredients as a base. Like I said, we'll be using our chicken thighs. Now the chicken thighs, they have this bit of oil, well, not oily bit, but fatty bits to them as well. But before we get started, guys, what I need you to do is get everything, your mise en place in place. So this is a pot on the stove for our rice. We can get this pot going, start boiling that. I've just got a fry pan on there, it's super low just to get that heat going. So how you guys going there, Benson?
Yeah, now we've sparked it up now, Mark. and it's heating up. And I'll also just make mention everything that you've, all the herbs that you've and spices that you've just mentioned. We've also got them available on AustralianSuperfoods.com and also bushfoodsshop.com.au as well. So these are some of the pieces here, some of the boxes, and then also on Melissa's left-hand side as well.
And we have to say, when I opened these to get some of the ingredients ready, the smell of the native thyme was just amazing. So it's beautiful ingredients.
Native thyme, it is unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
so what I'm doing here,
you've got just standard, or not standard, just kind of thyme that you would get in the shop or get from Bunnings. So it's a very different smell and very different flavour.
Oh, very different flavour, and that's what I mean. When you have the fresh, and when you have the dried, you get that scent that comes out through that thyme. So did you get that thyme? Smell it and have a whiff of it, and get those flavours that come out. That's the exciting about where I use this thyme. Rub it in the palm. The heat comes out of your palm. That's where all of those flavours come out of that herb. But that's again for our dish. So what I'm doing now, we've got that on. The water's starting to boil. We need to get our rice on it in about 5 minutes. Our cup of rice. This is going to a we've got our chicken thighs in front of us here. You can see there's a little bit of fat on there. Just trim that down a little bit, because what we're going to do, we want to save some of that fat with a bit of flavour. Just trim a little bit off, because we want to keep most of it there. And chicken thighs, like I said, they're really different because they're a lot juicier. I find the breast can be a bit dry sometimes, but with the thighs, there is that little bit of juiciness. Just trimming these down a little bit. Don't take too much of that fat off if you've got your thighs there. Cut those down in half. As I said, we're in a bit of a lockdown situation here at the moment, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's life, and I think we're all getting used to it these days. Okay, we're down to this last one here. Beautiful.
So Mark, just checking, with the pan, you've got that a bit of a medium heat, just kind of...
Yep, the medium heat on our stove, just on a medium, that is starting to get hot, and when we start cooking that off, I'll bump that right up so it's got a nice hot base onto it. Okay, because we'll start that now. Now with our water is boiling over there, I've got a cup of rice. So what I'm doing is putting the rice to our water. Now that'll cook away for a good 5-10 minutes, and then I'll just let it relax. Because that's going to be, I'll mould that into a cup later on, and when we do our presentation, that'll be, so the rice is boiling away in the background there. But keep your eyes on it though.
I have to confess, Mark, I've cheated with the rice, and I've pre-prepared that, so I'm not a good rice cooker.
It's funny you said that, Melissa. I was thinking about doing that, but I thought no. Okay, so what I've done now.
Briefly, do you have any quick tips for cooking the perfect kind of fluffiest rice?
Oh, the fluffiest rice? Keep an eye on. No, really.
Any tips?
Keep an eye on it. Well, for every cup, you need at least 2 cups of water, 2.5 cups, because it will absorb it and it will, take up all of that moisture. But I like to wash it just a little bit to get that starchiness out and then put that into a mold. But yeah, 2.5 cups to a cup of rice in that water, and let it simmer down slowly. Okay, we've ramped up the heat on our oven, on our stove now. So if we can just turn that right up, because we need to get this really hot. That base is going to start cooking all of the chicken, because we're going to put a little bit of oil in the bottom. So we need some olive oil. Make sure that base is really hot. Okay, great. I'm just drizzling a little bit of oil in here. About 30 mil. So that 30 mil, we've got our chicken. It's looking nice now. We'll put our presentation side down. So which is the flat side of this? Yes, you've got all of that sinew, but that is where all of that flavour from this chicken thigh is going to come from. Listen to that sizzle. That's the sizzle you want. Putting our thighs in there, making sure the fat's down on the pan as well. That will render down and flavour that chicken. But not only that, the base of the pan, because what you're doing is we're going to scrape all of that flavour up, and that is called the fond. The fond of the pan, that's all of that flavour that is down the bottom. We're going to make a special sauce out of that with that zemenes. But the first thing to do is to fry it all off first. Those chicken thighs. You want to brown them?
So Mark, people are always a bit nervous about cooking chicken. Is there any suggestions of how do you know when it's ready, when it's cooked?
Okay, so when you've got your chicken, we're only going to brown the outside of it on either side. So we would need about 2 minutes on either side. And then we're just going to flip it over. Then we're going to put it onto a plate and just let it relax while we get everything else down the bottom. You can see that frying up there nice and slowly. Sounds like you've got a hot pan there, Benson. I can hear it.
Yeah. It is sizzling quite nicely.
Okay, flip them over after a minute or so. And put that little bit of colour.
Yep.
Yeah, starting to do some golden to it. Definitely spitting up a storm there, Mark.
I'm going to have to do some cleaning after this.
Well, I think if you cook, you don't
have to bring you in the kitchen, Melissa. Okay. Okay, how you guys going there?
Good. I think it's browning up nicely.
Okay. Just hold the pan up, Melissa. Give us a look. Oh, well done.
How's that?
Well done. Okay, give it a flip and then
should I still have it on a fairly high heat then, Matt?
yep. Okay, flip it over. Give us a look at the colour of it there, Melissa.
How's that?
Okay, flip one of those chicken fillets over. And give us a look. Beautiful. You've got that colour there now. That's the colour we want. As long as you've got that on both sides, take it out off the pan and put it onto a plate and let it relax.
Okey-doke.
Because I don't want all of that chicken cooked through because we'll be cooking it, the rest of it in the sauce, and we want to keep that moisture. Okay, put it onto the plate.
Yeah, so chicken's out of the pan.
So I've just popped
Okay,
that
now
to
all
the
of
side
that flavour in the pan,
rest
turn
for
your pan down a bit.
So
what we've got next,
pan down to about medium.
you bet down to medium, Melissa. Fantastic.
Yep.
Okay, now the big star of this dish, it's almost like a fortified wine, and it's called Pedro Ximénez. Really, really lovely fortified wine. It's almost like a sherry, a bit different, but really, really tasty. So that's what we're going to be using, our Pedro Ximénez.
Ooh,
Okay,
little top there of the
colour. We've got that lovely colour of the pan and that smoke. All of that is called the fond of the pan. That's where a lot of the flavour is. Okay.
yeah.
Putting that on there because what we're going to do next is we're going to be adding the Pedro Ximénez and the chicken stock, because the chicken stock will take up all of that fond off the pot, off the pan, and that's going to flavour it. Okay, so that pan at the back here, that colour that's on the bottom of the pan, pour half of your...
So the sherry in first, Mark.
Pardon?
The sherry in first.
The chicken stock.
The chicken stock first.
Yeah. Only about 100 ml.
Yep.
And then we've got our Pedro Ximénez, about 50 ml of that. Now, stir off all of that flavour off the bottom of the pan. So we've got the chicken stock there. We've got that Pedro Ximénez. That flavour is coming through. Oh, beautiful. Lovely. Beautiful.
Smells great as
Smell
well.
that?
Yeah, the sherry really smells fabulous.
So that flavour from the bottom of the pan, got that
Yep.
chicken stock in there as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put the chicken back in to that pot.
So Mark, the liquid here should be sort of just bubbling away a little bit.
Simmering away. But what we're going to do now
Turn it
is
down a little. It's boiling, I
turn
think.
it down a little bit, and then put your chicken thighs in that sauce. Well done.
Okay.
Smells amazing, doesn't it?
Does. It really smells lovely.
So all of
And
those
the hit of the pork nearly took my breath away.
very well.
So
See it
that's how
bubbling
we're
away there.
looking now.
Yeah.
Really nice. Okay, so what we do now is we add our native thyme. We add our salt bush and our oregano. So a good half teaspoon to start off with. With these, I've got the fresh stuff here, so I'm going to be using some of this fresh stuff.
Okay, I'm using the dried ones that we've got from Taste of Australia.
Yeah, fantastic. And again, same flavour, it's just in a dried form. I'm going to put these into the pot now, just like this. So that flavour will simmer down, that will come out. I'm doing the same with the oregano. Got the fresh native oregano, it's beautiful. That's
great.
really, really different, unique. I'm going to put some of that in there as well. And again, you don't need too much of these. That's why you only need a half teaspoon to start off with, and then you go to the full teaspoon if that flavour is required from your palate. It's all about people's personal palates. So we've got that in there now. We're going to put that back onto the stove. I've also got some salt bush here. This is the old man salt bush I was telling you about, that round leaf. This is the grey salt bush, which is the pointy leaf. Again, really salty, very, very nice. I'm just going to bung a few of those in there too. So we've got all of that flavour in there. I've got some of this dry salt bush. Put that over the top, nice. Back onto the stove. We've got the rest of our stock. Let that come up to a bubble. let that simmer down, and then just add the stock and the sherry until you go through it, until it evaporates. It's going to make a nice creamy sauce out of that once we add a little bit of butter to it. How are you going there, Melissa and Benson? They dropped out.
The aroma of the herbs is just incredible. On that note, if people are wanting to use some of these ingredients to replace standard thyme and oregano and what have you in their everyday cooking, is it essentially a swap for a swap? So if it's half a teaspoon of regular thyme, it would be half a teaspoon of the native thyme, or do we need to sort of like make little adjustments?
Oh, definitely. Look, half a teaspoon, you don't need a quarter of a teaspoon of the native thyme. The flavour that comes out of that is really unique. And like a lot of our herbs, they are packed with a lot of flavour, and you don't need to use much at all. And I think that's really fascinating to find that, you know, we have this amazing herbs and fruits here, and we're eating things like the size of a thumbnail that has just so much flavour, so many vitamins, and so many, you know, good elements to it that we are so fortunate. Okay, so how are you going with your chicken? It's simmering away nicely. Stir it through, and a little bit more of the stock. And the sherry. Okay, we'll let that simmer away there. Now, to the touch, I usually check my chicken fillet. Okay, I'm just checking my chicken fillet. There's a bit of a spring there when you touch it. Yep. Okay.
I still have, yes, I have a spring.
You have a spring?
I have a spring.
Okay, now turn your chicken fillet over. Let it cook for about another minute on that side. And then we're going to take that out of the pan, okay? Then we're going to reduce that sauce for the chicken. How much stock and Madeira Seminars do you have left there, Benson?
I've still got a little bit, yeah. I think I put too much in too soon, so it hasn't quite reduced down as much as it might have.
It's all right. It all takes about time. So just let it reduce slowly. Let that evaporate. That's where
Beautiful
all of that
colour.
flavor.
It's nice and dark and
Nice and dark, isn't it?
yeah.
Okay, now up to this stage, this is what it's looking like. I want you to take that out, put your chicken fillet. There is still that spring to it, so it's not cooked right through. Onto a plate and just set it aside until we reduce this sauce, okay? Perfect.
So Mark, while that's reducing, I'd be interested just to get your thoughts on where Indigenous cuisine is at the moment across Australia. And, you know, we're seeing a lot more uptake in restaurants and cafes. But you know, is this something you've been seeing growing over the last few years, or do you think this is very much in a full swing at the moment?
Oh, look, I've been working with this stuff, Benson and Melissa, for 40 odd years, and it's just now starting to take off, all of these Indigenous flavours and herbs. And with, you know, the rise in the acceptance of NAIDOC and all of our other Indigenous celebrations we have here, it is starting to step up. People are curious. People are, especially a lot of the foodies, are wondering, you know, where can they get these herbs and spices? Where can we try this stuff? Because outside of Australia, very, very hard to get it. And like everything in Australia, to try and get anything in is hard enough, and trying to get anything out can be even worse. So it's always like that. How's your sauce looking there, Melissa?
It's coming along. If I tilt it a little bit, you might, there's still quite a bit there.
Yeah.
You might not be able to see it quite well, but it is gradually reducing.
Okay, no, that's fine, because we just want to get it right down, and then we'll add that butter to it. That'll help give it that creaminess. Now, how's your rice going?
It's sitting there waiting to be plated.
It's already done. Okay, so
I was just going to say, Mark, for the people who are watching in the US, You can get these ingredients here in the US. There's a couple of options. We have a, and I'm just going to look at my trusty notes, the Taste of Australia products that we're using tonight. You can get those at www.bushfoodshop, all one word, .com.au. The Australian Superfoods little boxes that have a selection of different herbs and dried fruit products and things like that. You can get that from ostsuperfoods.com.au, or you can actually locate them here. If you Google those or put a search in on Amazon, you can actually get those shipped directly from the US. But Australian Superfoods and the Bush Food Shop will actually ship to the US. So if people are interested, they can get those ingredients here.
And actually the links to those have just been shared in the chat as well. So those at home, you can actually go into the chat function and you'll be able to click on those links and go directly to the website.
And look, there are a lot of people out there now championing Indigenous foods, which is great. And it's always great to hear new people popping up. There are a lot of new Indigenous people out there growing this stuff, especially our fresh herbs and spices. We have a group of school kids that I get this stuff from, which is fantastic. Over at La Perouse, an Aboriginal community are doing all of this. It's amazing what we have. And not only that, it's teaching these kids the importance of what foods we have here, but how to utilise them as well. Okay, so how's our sauce looking?
Yeah, it's coming down. It's still got a little bit to go to simmer down completely.
Yeah, we just need just a little bit down the bottom, then we're going to add the butter. That's going to be the sauce. Okay, so...
Okay, there's still a fair bit there, Mark. I could let it go a little bit longer.
Yeah. Ramp the heat up.
Turned up to high.
Yeah. Stick it on turbo. It'll be fine.
Well, that's the beauty of gas.
It is, isn't it? It makes a big difference. I love cooking with gas.
Yeah.
So Mark, while that's kind of reducing just for the next couple of minutes, it'd be great to kind of hear you. What really inspired you to get in the kitchen and cook and to really use this as a platform to connect people to culture?
That's a great question, Benson. Like when I was a young kid, 9, I knew I wanted to, I was just fascinated watching my mum and my aunts cook. I'd be sitting at a table like this, like any Indigenous family, always waiting for him to feed. So I was sitting here and just watching mum cooking all the time. And that's what really sparked my interest. And then hence, once I left school, I found an apprenticeship and was the first Indigenous person on the Illawarra coastline to come out with a degree back in the early 80s. It's sad but true. And it was an amazing time because I was introduced to these foods as a young kid, travelling back to the Bundjalung area. My mum come from a mission up around Cabbage Tree Island, and my dad grew up on the riverbed in Casino. We used to go back every year, and my aunt would be making wattle seed scones and lemon myrtle, fritters and all of this sort of stuff we'd be making up there because that's where that came from. Where the tradition came from, especially the back houses, you're talking the myrtle and also the aniseed myrtle. Really, really unique sample. Great area for fresh produce. But look, that really got me inspired into cooking and to really, the curiosity factor with Indigenous food was always there. But once I finished my apprenticeship, I married the two and then turned it into a contemporary Indigenous cuisine in the late 80s, early 90s, and started experimenting, doing a lot of stuff, doing a lot of foraging as well. And here I am today. So here we are. This is reduced right down. When it's reduced, you'll see those bubbles coming off it. That's as far as I want to get it down. Is it looking that nice dark colour there, Melissa?
I think it is, Mark, and I reckon it's come down about half. So
perfect. Now what we're going to do, have you got your butter?
I've got my butter.
Okay, now if you've got a spoon, I want you to taste that flavour of what you've been cooking. That's that lovely colour of it. It's almost like a burnt caramel. And I want you to try it. Oh, yum.
Oh, that's amazing. It is that real sort of rich caramelly flavour. But the native thyme, and that just cuts through it that little bit. It's lovely.
Isn't it nice? And it's so earthy, isn't it? Okay, so with that back on the stove, let that boil away. Add your butter.
All of the butter at once?
No, just half of it. Now you're talking.
I'll check this time, I've learnt.
Okay, add that butter in there. Going to give it that creaminess now that we want. Not only that, it'll change that tone a bit as well.
It'll make it, really starting to look a little bit glossier.
Yep. Gives it a bit of a shine. Now, what I want you to do is add your thighs back into the sauce.
So we've still only just got half the butter in, haven't we?
Yes, half the butter in.
Pop the thighs back in.
Put the thighs back in. This is what it's looking like now, that lovely. And only half of that butter. If you only use half of that butter, that's fine. The other half you can put on a bit of bread. Sop up all of those juices. But see, that's what it's looking like now. It's looking pretty sexy.
I'm just going to do a little tilt of my pan here and hopefully it's looking similar.
Beautiful. Nice. Okay, ramp that heat up again. Let that come up. It'll cook those thighs through. Now we've got our rice. What I want you to get is a cup, and I want you to mould your rice.
Yep.
So if you get your rice, mould it into a cup.
Just grab my plate here as well.
I've just got a little bowl here. I'm going to mould my rice. Okay, guys, go on there.
It's looking good. Is there any suggestions that you make around plating up? Because I'm always blown away.
You can be as Benson, you can be creative as you want. I mean, you know, plating up is all about, yes, it's appealing to the eye, but really it's an individual as well. So, go for it.
Oh, the colour is amazing. It's really sort of like a dark caramel.
Okay, this is what mine's looking like now. It's almost coming up like a coffee.
Yeah.
It's quite nice. But once you get that stickiness to it, just turn that heat right down. Now we're going to adjust our seasoning, so grab your spoon. If you can coat the back of your spoon there, Melissa, like that.
Yep.
You can coat the back of it. That's what we're looking for.
Oh, I just tasted it and it's quite that viscous sort of lovely thick sauce. It's going to be fabulous.
You're making me dribble. Okay.
Well, our official taste tester here is looking very keen to get the plates, so...
Tell him he has to wait.
Yeah.
Okay, now if you like the flavour of that, that's fine. Otherwise, you can adjust the seasoning. You can add a little bit more salt bush if you want. I've also got some of this native pepper. Now, I have that on standby just in case People love their pepper and they want it. This is the native pepper, like I said, from Tassie, comes up really well. Or there's that black pepper you can use. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of that in there. I will show you now what this is looking like. That stickiness. Now it's gotten that thick.
Yeah.
I just cream that up and it's coated and giving that chicken a shine. They're nice and springy, so they're not overcooked and they're not going to be dry. So, okay, rice on the plate. How you going there, Melissa?
Good. They're still nice and springy, just tested that. Rice is on the plate.
Right, I'm going to put mine on my plate now too.
Wow.
That's good.
I've got mine on my plate. I'm going to move this. Show you guys what I'm doing.
I think you've improved my cooking from all the way across the airwaves, Mark, because I have to confess I did practice this dish a couple of times and it has never looked this good.
That's a good
It was
thing.
always fabulous, but I didn't get this colour when I was trying it before. So those little hints and tips you've given along the way have been really, really useful.
Well, look, basically, look at the colour of my chicken here. You see that? It's all been coated, that lovely colour.
Yeah, I think mine's
all of that flavour.
looking quite similar.
Okay,
There we
look,
go.
it's just dress your plate up how you want it. Basically, a couple of thighs on the top. Like this is for, you know, family to eat, so.
I think this might just be for the official taste tester on his own. I don't think he'll want to share.
That's good. Okay, I'm just plating, like I said, Benson, you can plate it up any way you want.
Mark, we've just had a comment in the chat section that someone's drooling in Colorado.
Excellent.
Oh, really? That's a good thing. Okay, how you going there, Melissa?
I'm good. And then do we just add a little bit of the sauce on top?
See that sauce, that nice, yeah, nice, that is, that's what that sauce comes up, beautiful. Okay, so we probably tease you a bit more and I'll bring this right up. So you can see that there, that lovely chicken, you can see that lovely. Now what I've got is our sauce, Melissa, just drizzle that all over your chicken. Done.
Mark, I can see you've been doing this for a while. The control.
My drizzling wasn't quite that artistic.
About milking the whole process. Okay, we've got that there. Wham bam, look at this amazing dish. All of that flavour. How are you looking there, Melissa?
I'm good. I'm just going to pass it over this way and see if we can... There we go. Can you see that?
Tell you what, it looks very good.
There's mine there. And it feeds a huge family, that lovely stickiness of the zeminaise, that sweetness that comes through, that lovely tone of the native thyme, the oregano, the saltbush. They're very subtle flavours. That's what you want. Fantastic. Melissa, well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you were a big help, Mark. Well, should we call in the taste tester and see what he thinks?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think so.
Okay. Where's the taste
I'll
tester?
call in my taste tester too.
Come round the... Here we go. Here we go.
I've got our taste tester here
Looks
too.
good. And it smells good.
Oh, that chicken looks lovely.
Oh, that
Yeah.
chicken's it's cooked perfectly.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
That is really good. There's a bit more left as well. Good. That is
Look at the
delicious.
seconds.
You do notice a difference in the flavour as well of the herbs. They are a little bit unique. So yeah, I'm really liking
Is there a
this.
subtleness to the flavour? or-
There is a suppleness, but it's strong as well. You know, there is a strong flavour there. That you obviously don't need a lot of these herbs, but they do work well. And that is a bit of a unique flavour there, and it's really good, very rich, and I like this.
Oh, I'm having
Yeah, well, I'm going to take this away to my table in a minute and finish it off.
Got our
So I'm
taste
sure
test
you've got better things than to
at
see me
Bedford.
eating. So this is excellent.
Oh, bye-bye dish.
I just would ask what vegetables you would normally put with this question for Mark.
If you need any.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mark?
Oh yeah, definitely. Look, you can cook veggies. I usually, do the dish like this, put it on the table, do a big bowl of steamed veggies, wham bam, hook into it, and a nice bit of sour to mop up all of that sauce, and it's got to have butter on it.
Great.
So, Mark, can I also ask a quick question in regards to changing out the chicken? Could something like, as a vegetarian, could like tofu go in there that would take on those flavours as well?
Oh look, it could be a bit tough, Benson, because you need actually the proteins from the meat to flavour this dish. And that's where you get all that flavour when you burn that stuff on the bottom of the pan, the fond. Look, you can probably try it with tofu. I never have, but look, go for it. But look, if you're going to do something like that, use a harder cheese, something like a halloumi or something really solid.
That would also be a good option. Yeah,
It's going to give it to you.
yeah. Thinking like a good like tempo or something like that.
Yeah.
Because you get the bit of like a burning on the place when you originally fry it off. You could
Yeah, you get that browning
yeah.
and the crispiness, yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Mark,
all of
thank you.
that
That was
flavour on
fantastic.
top.
So, quick question: if out of the wide variety of flavors and herbs and spices that you've worked with, is there a particular flavor that you just always that you go to? What's the
Oh look, lemon myrtle is always a go-to. Same as the roasted wattle seed. And look, it's always a great introduction because there is a lot of these herbs around, and you can get this overseas. It's a great introduction to, especially with the lemon myrtle and the wattle seeds, to make Anzac biscuits or shortbread biscuits with the lemon myrtle. But Benson and Melissa, there is a trick with all of our herbs too. You get the maximum flavour out of them when you actually put them in that moisture, and that leaches out. And you probably tasted that, Melissa, through that sauce. You have to let those flavours leach through, and that's what gives you that amazing scent.
So, Mark, there was a question that also came through in regards to what kind of dessert. So, have an amazing, main course in the meal that we've just made. But then, what would it kind of move into, or where would you go after this in regards to flavour for a dessert?
Oh, for a dessert? Oh, look, it's a pity I didn't get to introduce some of our amazing fruits that we have here, the rye berries, the muntries, the lemon aspens, because these fruits make amazing desserts. Same with the roasted wattle seed. The roasted wattle seed, it's a little acacia. It's a small seed, really, really small. You'll find it along the beaches of New South Wales and WA and Victoria. The black wattle seed, you roast that up, grind that down, you get this lovely coffee and chocolate scent from it. It makes a great tiramisu, and you're not having all of the caffeine that comes out of coffee. So you won't be ticking every 10 minutes. So it's a really good herb to start out with, and the same with the lemon myrtle. But like I said, there's a secret. You have to leach those flavours out, especially with the lemon myrtle, in a little bit of butter, melt that down and rehydrate it in the fat, because that's where all that flavour is going to stick, in the butter fat. That's what's going to give you that flavour. Same with the wattle seed, in a little bit of hot water, let that steep, not too runny or anything like that, just enough so it all absorbs that moisture, and that little bit more so it's got a little bit of movement there. That's where you get that maximum flavour of. You get coffee, you get mocha, you get chocolate. It's just an amazing herb. Makes a great tiramisu, like I said. And a great wattle chino.
And there are actually there are lots of dessert options in Australia, the cookbook as well, which people could have a look at. And this is gonna that there. But again, just this can be, you can get this in the US, here in the US, and also in Australia. They're available online or in bookstores like Target, Angus and Robertson in Australia, direct from the publishers, Phaidon here, and Target stores here as well. The websites where you can locate the actual native herbs are on the embassy website. So where you went to register, there's also some links there to where you can find those. And we're also going to be putting this up on YouTube, the embassy's YouTube website, in the very near future. So people can go back if they've missed any of the hints and tips. They can go back and watch it again and cook through it themselves if they want to do that.
So Mark, thank you so much for taking us through this today and for the wonderful conversation. Because NAIDOC is probably a pretty busy week for you, so we really appreciate you taking the time. But you know, what does the rest of the week hold for you? And you know, what does NAIDOC week really mean to you?
Oh, NAIDOC, it's a huge day for all of us. You know, NAIDOC, National. You there? Oh, National Aboriginal Islanders Day Observance Committee. That's what NAIDOC means. And our theme this year is Healing Country. And about healing country is about healing your heart, basically. And Australia's heart needs to be healed at the moment, and we need to heal it with the help of our Indigenous culture, because that's what's going to bring us all together. We're in a unique position in this country that we have an amazing culture that we should all embrace and really be proud of, because we have so much to offer, so much to give, and so much to share. Hence the food, the stories, and what NAIDOC represents.
Mark, thank you so much. You're just really wonderful and such a role model for so many of our communities, and a really shining light to the diversity and the richness of our culture as well. So thank you so much for your time today. And to everyone that's been able to dial in and join us today, thank you so much for registering. And actually, when you registered, you went into a draw to win a copy of the cookbook and also a selection of some of the herbs that we cooked with today. So the draw has been randomly picked out, and the winner, we're very pleased to announce, Nana Booker has actually won the cookbook. But please, there is, as Melissa mentioned, the website will also, that you registered at, will also be able to feature the link to be able to purchase yourself a copy of Australia the Cookbook, as well as links to be able to pick up those herbs. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. And this has been a wonderful opportunity led by Melissa to be able to celebrate and acknowledge NAIDOC Week. And we're looking to do a few more of these kind of events going forward as part of our our work in not only the public and economic diplomacy, but then also the opportunity to showcase the diverseness and richness of Australian culture to the US as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh,
and thank you, Mark, for vastly improving my chicken cooking skills.
Look, thanks, Melissa. I hope you learned a bit from that. To all of my friends in America that I hope did dial in and watch, happy NAIDOC Week to you all. Thank you very much for letting me be part of this, and hope to see you guys again soon.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.